Familiar with Chesterfield?
To
We're about
northwest.
yeah about 30 minutes west of St. Louis.
Yeah.
We've started the stream. And we'll just give it a minute or two here. Let some folks join.
Yeah, Chesterfield, that area really grew. Are you from there originally, or where are you from?
I am. Yeah, I grew up about just a couple miles from the office actually, and ran into to folks in MiTek about an hour and a half away, and that's how I really got introduced to them. But yeah, I grew up in this area. If you're familiar with St. Louis, I'm in Kirkwood now.
Yeah, I am, because I went to school in Kirksville, Missouri, and a bunch of my friends were from the St. Louis area.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
So Kirksville, is that Truman?
Truman, yeah.
Very nice. So I went to Mizzou, so not too far.
Oh yeah, right. A little bit bigger.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit bigger.
Slightly, yeah.
Right down 63. I think we were right up. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Good times.
All right, I think everything's looking set up here. Give it a little bit longer for a few more folks to show up, and then we will kick this off. What do you have kids, Stephen? You got the big Halloween celebration over the weekend?
No, we don't. We usually still bring out the fire pit and hand out candy on the driveway, but we don't. No kids yet. So I'm sure it's in the future, but not right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's funny. We do the same thing every year, and I get freaked out because these kids are coming by in these $10 costumes that absolutely would blow up if they got close to the fire, and it's always windy, so all of a sudden they go blowing. They go by and the flames are blowing at them. But actually, this year I have the Solo stove. Do you know what those are?
Is that the smokeless fire pit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny. They say it's an innovation. It's just it's a chimney, and it has like these holes around the bottom, so it sucks air in and underneath the fire, and it creates the convection action.
Oh, interesting.
They're remarkable.
Wow. Still get pretty hot?
Oh yeah.
Lets off good heat. Yeah. Does it burn through wood pretty quickly?
It actually does.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like a little bit of being in a blast furnace. But it's kind of funny. That's a little the story of Solo Stove is kind of relevant to, what you're going to talk about today, where you're taking an old concept, and chimneys have been around for a long time, and you just do a little tweak to it, and all of a sudden it's this new innovative thing. My buddy just bought one of these Solo stoves, and he's got a deck, and we sit right on the deck with the Solo stove, and you never worry about it burning through the deck.
Wow.
So, kind of cool. All right, let's kick this thing off. Welcome, everyone. It is Friday, October 29th. If you didn't know, it's our Smart Market. We have with us the very special guest, Stephen Keller from MiTek. Going to have a great conversation with him. But before we do that, as always, we're going to check in with our man on the street, Ashley Buckholt, who's in the pit or in the throes of the lumber market. And Ash, what was the highlight of the week for you in Lumberland?
That's great, Mike. I have a picture of the pit up here still, and I'm glad we are not doing that anymore, because we're taking things digital the way they should be, taking the industry at a new level. So this week was really interesting. Kind of midweek, we saw buyers start to change their numbers and more sellers start to come on. And what that usually indicates is a turn in the market. And that's what we've seen. Even though Random Lengths printed some items up this week, they are probably slowing a little bit, especially in the Southern Yellow Pine market. And we're starting to see that, I don't want to say roll over yet, but there's definitely a lot of wood showing up at places that probably are a result of what made the market run the first time. They're now on the market getting sold. Business is still good. Still things out there with land, labor, logistics. But the overall business is still good. Some of the highlights this week, we had some big orders down in the southeast to multifamily people on 104 and 5/8, 2x4 and 2x6 studs. So that market is still robust in the southeast. We've got some big announcements coming out next week in MaterialsXchange with some new partnerships. But Mike, I'll kick it back to you and let you and Steve take it over.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to add to a little bit of what you're saying. January lumber futures is limit down right now. The November lumber options expire today. I think they're actually at noon. They just might have just expired. But if you want to learn more about lumber futures and what's going on, Tuesdays, we have lumber futures from the free seats with myself and Greg Kuda at noon, as always. You can learn a little bit more about lumber futures there. Mondays, Ashley talks with Charles De La Torre, a remanufacturer and value add company. And Wednesdays, we have Matt Lane, or no.
Wednesdays this week in lumber with Greg Rowley and Matt Beamer.
Yep. And then Thursdays with Matt Lehman. So there's no shortage of information to be had with MaterialsXchange at noon every day on LinkedIn. So with that, I am going to introduce Stephen Keller. And Ash, I can send you away. Have a good one, man. Stephen Keller, MiTek. We just talked about, he's living down just outside of St. Louis. Welcome to the show. And Stephen, why are you here? What brings you to MaterialsXchange Smart Market?
Well, thanks for the invite, Mike. Really glad to be here. You and I talked met a few weeks ago. I guess for the second or third time, we talked at the National Framing Conference, and the Posi Struts system really piqued your interest, as well as a lot of folks at that show. So really wanted to jump at the opportunity to talk about that innovation, as well as focuses we have to better the market as we move forward as well.
Perfect. So how'd you get at MiTek, into the lumber industry? I know there's a bunch of letters after your name. I'm assuming that means you're really smart.
I would never say that, but I passed the right test, so I'll say that.
Okay,
so I started with MiTek in the Chesterfield office, where I'm at here, in their engineering office, doing sealing trusses, roof packages, bracing packages, doing repairs for probably many of your customers out there too. From that, I moved on to more of a strategic marketing role, looking at how we could bring some of these previous innovations back into the market that have a lot of value that would really help in with some of the challenges we see in today's market. So Posi Struts was one of those products that I saw a lot of potential in, but noticed there wasn't a whole lot of talking about it. It's been around for some time, but you see a lot of things in a lot of value in that product that is needed in today's market that I'll talk about in a little bit here.
Yeah, excellent. I kind of laughed to myself. If you would have told me back in when I was in high school before I went to college that the nerds would be running the world right now, well, I wish you would have told me that, right? But it's amazing how things have come full circle. Back then, construction was about big guys swinging hammers, and there's so much more engineering, obviously, and doing things smarter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than we had in the past, and that's exciting. So let's get into it. You've got a nice presentation for us. I got to get out of this one and get into your slideshow. Start. I think. Come on. Like I said, innovation. Here we go. Why isn't it not starting? Well, you know what? I'm just going to share the screen, and it's going to look the way it is. So we're going to back up one. Posi Strut, MiTek Posi Strut. I'll go to the next slide. So not so new. What? Tell me this. We talked about this yesterday. This blew me away. I had no idea.
Yeah, we are looking at the screen here. We've got a picture of, you can see in the lower portion there, this came from a company that MiTek had acquired 50, 70 years ago, something like that, called Hydro Air Engineering.
Yeah, right there.
You could see Mr. Pazzi strut on the right side there. This was one of those advertising pieces used to take around to different engineers, to offices to promote it. And a lot of the messaging is the exact same. You could see they're so powerful. 50% less solid wood joists that you can expand the on-center spacing, things like that. And so a lot of this messaging is going to be the same, but again, there's more value that we can really talk about with different folks in the market that have a lot more impact on the material selection. Framers, structural engineers, and architects, of course, but component manufacturers that are looking for extra value to bring too.
All right. So yeah, we see the strut. What the heck does it do? That's the question. It's not just the legs on a blue dude.
Exactly. Let's go to the next slide. There we go. Okay. So on that right there, many of your customers are probably familiar with a typical wood web truss. MiTek manufactures that metal connector plate that's used as the connector to help transfer some of that force from the web to those cords to make an overall floor system. It's very similar to that, where we use that same 20 gauge metal, and you can see in that middle photo there in the blue, it actually combines 5 different pieces. You've got 3 different plates and 2 webs. They're making up one singular V, as we call it there. All of the Pazis have that. I'm sorry?
I said, okay, I get that, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's 5 different sizes we have there. We've got the PS 10 and 12, which are 9 1/4 and 11 1/4. We have a PS 12i, which is your 11 7/8 step. And then we have a PS 14 and 16, so you have 14 and 16-inch deep too. So it's basically taking out half of that wood from that truss, making it lighter, making it a little sturdier, making it a lot faster to manufacture as well.
So there's a pun intended here, but this is a product that actually bridges the gap, bridge the gap between a metal structure and a wood structure. It's pretty cool. It's a little bit of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's perfect. And there's a lot of different design flexibility you can build into these. Again, there's lots of different end conditions. It's one of those products that I use the term engineered product a lot. And what that means is it's a product that's really made for your home. It's not a home that's built around your system, but you can have different bottom cord bearings in the top left there, where you can eliminate some of that rim board on the outside. You can have some hybrid approach with that cantilever picture in the middle there, and have some wood web and some posi web in there too. You could have top cord conditions, as we see in that bottom middle there, which eliminates a lot of hangers and things like that. We can see some photos of that later on too. But it's really a system that takes into account all areas of the house too, where that kitchen island's going to be, where there's going to be additional load for heavy tile. All of this being an engineered product, much like wood web trusses, but every cord material, every plate or posi or end block, all of that is looked at and optimized to make sure that you're getting the biggest, that you're not adding costs for the sake of adding costs.
And I think it's important to note, this is a product that is actually assembled in a manufacturing facility. This is not an on-site manufacturer. You don't
absolutely. This is fully off-site, and all of MiTek component manufacturers are able to build these today, whenever they want. They use the same automation, the same software, the same labor. We've had customers that say that their shop labor enjoys it much more because it's obviously lighter, but it's faster for them. They don't have as many backaches at the end of the day. And there's a lot more value they could put into these type of solutions too. And we look at this picture you flipped to with architectural features here. You can bake in some of these, the shower pan drops, or if you've got a balcony on the outside there that you want to design that straight into your truss without having to sister things later on in the fabrication process or the framing process. So it saves a lot of time.
That's really cool. And what I'm looking at here is it does incorporate regular floor truss, regular wooden floor truss design in there as well. But that's awesome. So that's a shower right there.
Yep, exactly. It could. It's all a hybrid material. It doesn't have to be posi or have to be wood web. Again, it's a full engineered floor system that can take into account whatever it needs to. We're going to touch on this later, incorporating the shower pan in there, what that actually means. All right. So now we're going to take a look at, in place. All right. What are we looking at here? Yeah. So this is an example of a house that we had worked on converting earlier this year. If you look at that left system there, you see the EWP, and we could talk about the EWP availability and the shortage and why that's made it such another impactful condition in the market to why posis again came back very strongly. Or came up very strongly. So that EWP system there, we see 6 different members going there versus the posita on the right side there. We see 4 members with that increased spacing. That's just overall less material you have to install. Other things to point out here, notice that the EWP system has hangers that are attaching each of those to the not girders, LVLs, the beams, thank you. But on the right side there, because we're able to have it be top cord bearing, we can eliminate those hanger costs. And you'll find that throughout most of this job here, we're able to actually eliminate those costs and make the overall system cheaper. If you compare that dollar per lineal foot of an EWP system versus a floor system, that EWP is always going to be cheaper. But if you look at the full system and eliminating some of those costs, you can really help make that system eliminate those costs for the whole building. So there's another application here where you can use it in roof systems. These are very common in our European markets, but I think there's a lot of benefits that can be brought into the U.S. here. You see an attic truss on the right there where you can use these as the floor material, but also that roof material on the left side there.
I mean, I know in Chicago, we have limited ground space. Everybody's going up, and every house there are no attics. You're always dormering up into the attic. So yeah, that's really that's cool. All right, so we're looking at single family here.
Yeah, this is a quick single family photo. This is all from the MiTek structure software that you can see where you can add chases in there to give you a nice clean run. And it's going to be different. It's again made for your individual job. This is a big multi-family job that we did. They can be utilized. Again, 16 inches deep is the deepest depth we have, but we have customers that will also take 14-inch posis, turn their cords on edge, and then actually get a true 18 inches deep, which is great for multi-family fire conditions. And if you go to the next slide, you can get a quick view in there just of what that system would look like. Now on this one here, there's just a couple of the framers installing this. This is a project we did in California. Again, very easy for the framers to install the subflooring to the top bit because of that 3.5-inch width. So it makes it very user friendly. And then on that 12th photo, this is just another mention that we can install these as cassettes, which is very common for a lot of your large framing groups. A lot of component manufacturers offer this as added value, doing more off-site to eliminate the time and skill that's necessary on-site.
So this comes, when you say a cassette, this is the whole piece that would come directly from the component manufacturer, and the framing crew is obviously with a crane lifting this into place.
Absolutely. Yep.
I see, number one, a ton of labor savings right there.
Absolutely. You using systems like this on multifamily jobs, they're able to literally cut out months of their framing time, especially when they combine this with wall panels and roof trusses and other off-site components.
All right, you know what? That's the end of this presentation. I love it. It's so cool to actually see a product that transcends one style of construction, I guess, if you consider lumber, wood versus metal. And it really seems super design friendly, which that kind of brings us to the next topic that we decided to talk about. And it's value in the whole package and where design comes into that. Mm-hmm. So right out of the gates, each posi strut, I guess truss is going to cost more. It's going to be more expensive.
Sure. Absolutely. But it's that system analysis that you can really take out costs from other places in the building that are normally forgotten or aren't taken into account when analyzing or investigating what floor system is right for your job. So in this photo here, you could see that because of that top cord condition on the right there, again, we can eliminate hangers. Each of those hangers does add a lot of cost to the job. It also takes more time in the field, which we know that the framers out there, their time is money. I mean, any time they can move on to the next one, they could move to the next one is going to be beneficial for them. Because of the increased space.
Let's talk. You're talking time. Let's talk expertise. I mean, you put a hanger in the wrong spot, and the system is broken.
Yep.
Here, it's a cassette. You fly it in, boom, you set it down. I,
Yep.
I just love
Anytime
it.
you're eliminating pieces, you're eliminating complexity, and you're eliminating the need for that that expertise to be out there. That we all know that labor is one of our biggest issues, and it's not going to be one of those things that's just going to come back. I think we're going to be struggling with it for a long time. But anything we can do more offsite or lean on software to really guide us to a more preferred and more exact method, it's going to be ideal.
I want to show something here when you're talking design as well.
Mhm.
Uh, let's talk about the other trades. Like the guy putting these in, he does not care one bit about the electrician or the plumber. The guy
Yep.
putting in the stuff on the right, well, he may not care about the electrician or the plumber, but no one has to be worried about drilling holes. Look at you've got the Romax running through here. You got plumbing running through back in the corner.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm so glad you brought that up because it's a great point. On this exact job here, we were talking with the builder and the MEP trades after this, and the electrician and the plumber both said to us, "Hey, are there any more houses like this around here? We would go to those houses with the posi strut system before we went to the other ones." The builder heard that right away and said, "Man, a lot of times I'm waiting for those guys to come back because their expertise their labor is incredibly in demand too. So if I can get those guys to be waiting for my next posi system to be framed and ready to be installed, that's a win for me."
absolutely. All right. So let's move away from the infomercial a little bit here and let's talk thought leadership. And you and I were talking about this yesterday. The innovation moving forward is collaboration. And I think that's where this system that we've been talking about really starts to shine. So, well, I lob up the softball for you. Hit it out of the park for me. What am I talking about? Innovation is collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in my eyes, we really have to move away from coordination and move to collaboration. It's not about just talking to each other; it's about working with each other and making sure that the system of that overall that project, which is really going to be measured at that success level, not individual silos. We have to make sure that we are all working together, and that design is taking into account that overall framing, that final framing product. Working with the engineers and the architects very early to collaborate and make sure that we are adding in as many of those details into that truss system so that we can eliminate all the rework down the line. I mean, I think it was a recent article that said about 9% of overall building costs are just rework. Even if we can take that building cost, that rework down to 4 or 5%, it's money back in the developer and the builder's pocket. So,
Right.
but
So as opposed to, oh, hey, here's this pretty thing I want to build. Can you engineer it? It's like, all right, let's build something. Here's some engineering. Here's some, pretty stuff. Here's some, design, and you collaborate at the beginning, and then you're bringing in these other trades, of course, right? Um, and you
yeah,
can make an efficient system. And what's, dollars, of course, everybody loves to talk about, but labor. If I hear we've got a labor shortage once a day, I hear it 10 times a day. Or,
absolutely.
when we go to these conferences, and the last time we're at BCMC show, I'm like, what's going to happen? Someone's got to solve this problem. We're not just going to miraculously create another, 30% more carpenters or, skilled trades. So something's got to change. And this seems to be down that path of
Right.
creating a less labor intensive product.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, that labor is going to come back, and one of the biggest things we can do is to automate that expertise and put that into the software. Stop relying on people's minds and start leaning on the software that everyone will be able to utilize. Using, I know a lot of your conversations with different folks have talked about BIM. BIM is the future. It needs to be here right now, and it needs to be more utilized because it's something that I might be from Missouri, but everyone else is usually from the Show Me State too. They need to see what is going to be happening. They can see where all of those, where the collisions are going to happen. Being able to move just a simple drain pipe a few inches to the right could mean saving hundreds of dollars that is going to be repetitious as you go through that job. So doing anything to help put some of that expertise into the software is going to work miles.
All right. I kind of promised I wouldn't go down this road, and I think you promised your people you wouldn't. But there was one question about steel plate and sourcing and supply chain, and given the current market, I'm assuming that has affected this a little bit.
It's a good question. I'm glad that whoever it was that asked it, it's a good one to ask.
Tim Sines from John Jones Real Estate.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah.
And we know that guy has good questions.
Yeah, no. So all of these, all of the posi strut webs are made from the 20 gauge steel, which is more readily available than some of the high gauge steel that is only made by a few of the manufacturers in our country. So
that's cool. All right, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yep, exactly. So these are all manufactured in St. Louis right now. Where we are, MiTek is investing heavily to add to our manufacturing capacities around the globe, adding more presses, more dies, things like that too. Because we don't see this as just a now solution, we do see incredible growth opportunities with this. We have like I said, all of these are made as ordered, but that lead time isn't anything that should worry anyone. There is a good amount of steel where these can be manufactured as needed.
Okay, now the thing I think is important though, MiTek doesn't make these; they make the strut. They don't make the member. So
correct, yeah.
the supplier of this is going to be your component manufacturer.
The supplier of the truss will be the component manufacturer.
Well, the supplier of the solution is
correct. Yeah.
The component manufacturer, and that's cool. What I wanted to impress upon everybody, and when Stephen and I talked about having him on the show, was there's a different way to do things out there, and when you take a step back and you look at the whole picture, there can generally be a better way to do a building. If you look at it holistically from the building, which incorporates all of the mechanicals and all of the systems, if you would, there's new ways. And this is ironically an old product that is getting a renaissance. And shameless plug for MaterialsXchange. There's new ways to do things like buy lumber and use digital markets to be more efficient buying lumber. So that's my shameless plug for MaterialsXchange. We're coming up on our 30 minutes, and we always finish up with the question of, what does Stephen Keller see that other people may not, that's going to be more relevant in the future? And just this is your chance to put your 2 cents in.
Sure.
What are you seeing out there?
Well, I certainly think that from the component manufacturer and just building product side, we're going to see a lot more floor trusses in the market. I think that demand came in because of some EWP resin shortages, but that there's more value seen by builders and developers and folks in the supply chain that I think that floor trusses are going to be, we're going to see a big bump in how many of those are being utilized in the next 3 or 4 years. I think that we've talked a lot about collaboration. I think that there's going to be increased pushes for the framers and the component manufacturers to get engaged with those engineers and architects earlier in the design process as well. And it's absolutely necessary for all of us to succeed.
Yeah, we've heard this before with other guests that we've had on, and I've talked offline with guys, and the framers are like, look, you bring me to the table at the beginning, I'm going to make life a whole lot easier for everyone. Right. And you're going to get a better product in the end, delivered faster with less mistakes at a lower cost. All right. This is fantastic. Stephen, thank you so much for coming on board. If anybody wants to learn more about it, you go to MiTek. We can find Stephen on LinkedIn. He'll talk to you about it for sure. You know what? I love this stuff. I'm kind of a little bit of an engineer nerd myself, but there's no doubt this is the wave of the future. So we appreciate you coming on and informing us about what's happening at MiTek. And, we'll pay attention for sure. I know from our end. So with that, Stephen, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mike. I really enjoyed it. This was fun.
No problem. Everyone else, have a great, safe weekend. Happy Halloween, and we will catch up with you all next week.